Hi, welcome to neo-varsity-live. I'm joe-noga from cleveland.com, and I'm joined by mark-kern. And over the next half hour, we're going to take you through the state semifinal round of the OHSAA football playoffs. And hopefully, we've got Ron Wright from Hudson, Joey Casey from Nordonia, and Joey Casey from Mayfield and Jeff Fox from Nordonia. But first, we'd like to start off with our opening kickoff. Mark, I'm going to hit you with 5 questions, and then Mark's going to come back at me with a few. So let's get started. Mark, which player will have the most touchdown catches this week? Colton Whitted of Hudson, Sean Crawford of St. Edward, Denzel Ward of Nordonia, or Andy Isabella of Mayfield?
Going to go Sean Crawford of St. Edward. Watched him last weekend. He only had 2 catches, 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pretty efficient going with Crawford.
Yeah, his average yards per catch were pretty good in that game. Which team will score special teams touchdown in the state semifinals? Benedictine or St. Vincent St. Mary or Kirtland?
It's a tough one. St. Vincent St. Mary really used those special teams last week on the punt return, but I'm going to go Benedictine. Just so many guys you can put back there and return it, so I like the Bengals.
I like Dantes Rash back there to return kicks, Cavalon Reese as well. What of the 7 remaining local teams that we have, which school has the best marching band?
That's a tough one. I'm going to go Hudson, though. Hudson minute of the first game, I heard some terrific songs, so I'm going to go Hudson.
A big fan of Fat Bottom Girls because that's the signature song for the Hudson band this year.
Okay.
We've heard it. I will say this, every time I try to do a post-game interview after a Hudson game, that marching band is so loud that I can't even hear the guy that I'm interviewing. Mark, who throws more TD passes this week? Sam Skilgen, the quarterback at Kirtland, or Jerome Baker, the sometimes quarterback and running back at Benedictine?
You like seeing him wind up a quarterback, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
I'm going to go Sam Skilgen. Last week, he threw a nice touchdown, a fade to David Alchin, and I think Kirtland's not going to throw it much, but they're efficient. I think he'll get one.
Yeah, you know, the margin for error for somebody like Sam Skilgen is so small because they don't throw the ball as much. He has to be accurate when he does drop back there. All right, my last question for you. The more dominant short guy, Hudson's 5'5" kicker Grant Gagne, and he's been pretty dominant in the kicking game this year, or St. Edward's 5'8" running back Cole Guest?
Going to go Cole Guest. He gave St. Edward something they didn't have last year, the true running back, and he's been tremendous for their offense and really helped that offense take the next step. So now, those are pretty good, Joe. Pretty good questions, but I think I got some good ones as well.
All right, hit me. What do you got?
All right, we'll start. Which remaining team gives up the least points this weekend?
I think Kirtland's defense can lock them down. That's a pretty easy pick, actually. Tiger Laverty knows how to get to the state championship game. Knows how to win the state championship game, too, but I think the defense is going to get them there.
All right, Nordonia quarterback David Murray, 3 straight weeks with at least 6 total touchdowns. Does that continue this week?
I want to start by saying I'm very impressed with David Murray. The 6 touchdown passes last week, totally unexpected, but I think that streak ends against Mayfield. Mayfield's defense is pretty good. I saw their defensive backs, and we'll be talking to one of them shortly, Joey Casey. They put on a clinic against Bedford. There was nowhere to throw the ball downfield against the Wildcats.
Okay, and then go to Hudson quarterback Mitch Guadani. All year we've talked about him at the quarterback position, but this year now, the past couple weeks, really made some big plays at safety. Will he have a bigger influence on offense or defense this Saturday?
It's ridiculous to think that he wouldn't have a bigger influence on offense, but we'll ask Coach Wright coming up if we're going to see him as much on defense. We saw him in there throughout the Mentor game. He made a couple of tackles. He was even in on goal line situations. So, expect to see him all over the field. I do think he'll put a fingerprint on the game somehow on defense.
You just don't see very many quarterbacks playing defense anymore. But
you don't see many athletes like Mitch Guadani.
Absolutely not. All right, some good running backs left. Who will have the most yards this week? Dantes Rash, Cole Guest, or Adam Hess?
I like Adam Hess. I think he'll have a big game. Cole Guest, iffy against against the Hudson defense, which has been really strong all playoffs. I'm going to go with Dantes Rash. I think Benedictine can have multiple running backs have big games against Steubenville this week.
All right, final question. A lot of local football still to be played. 6 games in total. Who has the most difficult matchup?
St. Vincent St. Mary goes into their game against Joey Burrow and Athens from the Plains, Athens. You don't know what you're going to get with Joey Burrow. He is a physical beast. He can throw the ball. He can run the ball really effectively. I think they definitely pose the biggest threat to one of our local teams.
All right.
All right, so we are now joined by Hudson coach Ron Wright. Coach, glad to have you here.
Hey, thanks, guys. Glad to be here.
Coach, getting ready to take on St. Edward in the Division I Regional Championship game. I got to ask you first, though, Coach, you do any yoga this week?
Yeah, we did a little yoga Sunday. We got a little heated yoga in to get the kinks out. Kids like that.
Did you personally get down on the mat at all?
I haven't. I've partaken a little bit, but not a whole bunch. No. No. If I get down and get situated, I may never get back up.
Well, it's good to be loose and stay loose and have a little fun with it. To get your team to that point where you were having that Sunday morning yoga session, you had to get past Menor again this past week. Just talk a little bit about how far the program has come to be able to win a game of that magnitude.
Well, I mean, that was really another stepping stone to the draw that we had and to get into the playoff. I thought was pretty tough because you got to go through Ignatius and then you got to go through Menor twice. We play in week 9 and then turn around and play them again. Is a tough road, but our kids came out and played like they're capable of playing, and I thought we played hard and had a little break there in the second half where we scored pretty quickly in the beginning of the second half and then blocked that punt. I think that really made a difference.
Just talk a little bit about how difficult it is to come back and like you said, beat a team twice in the same season. You beat Menor in a big game in week 9, and then to turn around and have to game plan for them again. Did much have to change, or did you just execute your own game plan?
We really just executed what we thought we had to do, I think. Everybody had a few wrinkles. I think they had a few wrinkles, and we did too, but the game plan really, I mean, if you look at the game, it pretty much, I thought it went the way the first game, really.
Minus a few turnovers, certainly you guys were able to shore that part up. Talk a little bit about your defense's ability to put pressure on Menor's quarterback, Jake Floria, and really against Dennis Grissel of St. Ignatius in the game before that. The blitz schemes, the coverages, everything seemed to be working. Do you expect to be able to put pressure on St. Ed's quarterback, Brett Keene?
Well, I don't know. Those guys are special. We're going to do what we try some things to see what would happen, but I really, he's been over here and thrown with Mitchell a couple of times this summer, and very impressed with his arm. He's got a great arm. Smart guy, knows where he's going with the ball, and he's got some pretty outstanding guys to throw it to. So, we might dabble in it a little bit and see what we can do, but they're just got a really nice offense, and running back, the guest kid's really tough.
And Coach Mitch Guadagni, obviously a terrific quarterback, but he's starting to play some on defense, and that's just kind of unique because a lot of teams won't put their quarterbacks on the defensive side of the ball. What made you make that decision, and what were you expecting out of him?
Well, we thought as the regular season progressed that if we had a chance to win the state title that we had to play our best players. And Mitch is one of our better players, one of our best athletes. So we said in some instances, if we can, we want to put him over on defense and see what he could do, and he's done pretty well.
Coach, talk a little bit about after the game against Menor. You mentioned how they tried to take away, box Mitch in a little bit and on offense, and sort of open up the middle of the field. Are you expecting St. Ed's to follow that same game plan? Is there anything you can do to maybe try to get him outside if that's what you guys are looking to do?
Well, I have no idea what they're going to do. You get to this point in the game, you usually are pretty locked into some of the things you do, and there's not too many different things. But I mean, obviously they sure could try that. And I think he ran pretty well still the other night. Broke loose a few times and threw a couple of nice balls. So, I mean, he's good enough that if they want to box him in, then we'll find the open receiver and see if we can get it to him.
You also played a really good game special teams-wise, from kickoffs being, with the pooch kicks on the kickoffs to blocking a punt, recovering for a touchdown. What role are you expecting special teams to play against St. Edward?
Well, it's always it's always critical for us. I think that we're trying to gain another possession or two or change the game. So we spend a lot of time on our special teams to see if we can get an advantage.
Okay, well, we are talking to Hudson head coach Ron Wright. If you get a chance to and jump in our chat room and you're following along, go ahead and post a question. We'll try to get it to Coach Wright. I've got one more question before we go. This week you're going to be back at Akron, back at Infocision Stadium. Does playing at the same venue 2 weeks in a row give Hudson any advantage, make them feel more comfortable as they go into this game?
Well, I don't know if it gives us an advantage, but it is nice to know where we're going to be and how we're going to set up and all that stuff. I can appreciate that more, but I think anymore, playing on turf fields like we play all the time, I don't see home field or any kind of venue advantage for any high school. I really don't. I think it's pretty, what do I want to say? Like, there's not a lot, unless the crowd is right on top of you, it's pretty sterile. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it really comes down to the teams and how well the players play and the coaches coach.
All right, Coach. Well, it was a real pleasure to have you here. Join us on the show. Good luck on Saturday, and we'll look forward to talking to you again down the road.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys, for having me.
All right. Obviously, Coach Wright and the Explorers getting ready to go into that regional championship game in Division I. Bunch of other regional championship game finals going on this weekend, Friday and Saturday. Our roundtable question on cleveland.com this week talked about which potential state final matchup in any of the 7 divisions you thought would be the best matchup. And we had a bunch of different people answer. I believe you and Scott Patsko, one of our reporters, answered the question. For my money, I'd love to see a St. Edward versus Moeller state championship game. Those two teams have played some classic games in the regular season the last couple of years, and dating back even into the 70s and 80s, those two teams have a big-time history. I think a state championship game at the Horseshoe, Eds and Moeller would be a real classic.
I think that'd be a very good game. I'm going to stay on the Nordonia bandwagon and go Nordonia, Cincinnati, LaSalle. You look at LaSalle, they've beaten some very good teams this year in Division I as well, and Nordonia, that's been my team all year. I think this is a fabulous team, and if they were able to get into that matchup and play Cincinnati, LaSalle, I think it would really show how good a team they are if they were able to get that win. Okay, well, we are now joined by Mayfield wide receiver and cornerback, Joey Casey. Joey, good to have you here on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Joey, last week against Bedford, you guys fell behind 14-0, a couple of big plays for the Bearcats. What was said on the sidelines in the huddles among your teammates that kept the faith, kept you guys going, and got you to rally back for a victory in the regional championship game?
Well, we talked about before the game how we never gave up in all 3 of our playoff games. We've been down by a touchdown right at the beginning, and it was never in our minds that we were going to lose. We weren't going to give up.
Throughout that game, Shantez Moss of Bedford, one of the top running backs in the area, really gashing you guys, had some long runs. But throughout that, even though Moss had more than 200 yards in the first half, Bedford really wasn't able to throw the ball. Talk a little bit about the secondary, Bedford's secondary, your ability to put pressure on their quarterback throwing the ball. I believe their quarterbacks were 4 of 14 passing in the game. What did you guys do as a secondary to have that much of a dominant performance?
Well, it helps up front with having Brian Hunter up there and Zach Rodman. They do a great job of getting pressure on the quarterback, and it helps us in the defensive backs. because as long as we stay on their hip, they force throws and we make the plays.
And now you're going up against Nordonia, obviously a rematch from week 1 in the regular season. But just as kind of Joe alluded to, you're playing a Bedford team who is really focused on running the ball, and now you're playing a Nordonia team that has receivers that can really spread you out. How difficult is it to game plan for that team this week after preparing for Bedford last week?
Well, it helps that we played them already once, but mostly our defense is made for the spread, so this week we're just going against all these pass plays because I'm pretty sure they pass like 70% of the time, and we're doing one-on-ones with the defensive backs and just getting used to their routes.
Turnover is a big part of your success the last couple of weeks against Madison, against Bedford. You were able to, I think Luke Biken was able to get an interception against Bedford, and you had a fumble return. Who had the fumble return? It was, I think it was Phoenix Hardy. Phoenix Hardy had the scoop up and almost return for a touchdown there. Just talk about your defense and the way you guys get to the ball and are able to force turnovers.
Usually it's our linebackers filling the gaps, and they just put their head on the ball, and they're not securing it very well. The 4 turnovers in the Bedford game were huge because we almost didn't score before the half, and we were able to get the ball back and put it in to go up by 1 at halftime. So those turnovers are key.
Yeah, without those turnovers, the game is totally different. But you turn around, you look at Andy Isabella catches a touchdown pass 15 seconds before halftime, and you guys go in with a lead. What was the feeling in the locker room at halftime, knowing that you were 24 minutes away from moving on in the playoffs?
We knew we had the momentum, and we knew we were playing better on defense, and we knew we had to keep it up, and defense would win the game. And that's what happened in the fourth quarter. We shut them down, and we got the victory.
All right, so be honest with us. How badly have you guys been wanting this rematch with Nordonia? What's been the talk since week 1?
It's unreal. Ever since week 1, we've had it in the back of our mind because we know they're in Region 4, and if we could have got out Region 3, which we did, we might have a chance, and we do. And we all keep looking at a picture of the scoreboard, saying never forget, and it's in the back of our mind. Now it's here. We can't wait to play.
Who took a picture of the scoreboard and hung it in your locker room?
I think it was just Nordonia photographer, but we took it off their website and we put it on Twitter, and now everyone's looking at it and saying never forget.
Do you think it gives you guys maybe a little bit of an advantage having that incentive, being the hunters instead of the hunted?
Oh, I definitely feel like it helps us because it's hard to be a team twice, especially such a good matchup between us.
We are talking with Joey Casey from Mayfield. If you have any questions for Joey, go ahead and post them, and we'll try to get to them. Also, hashtag neo-varsity if you're on Twitter and listening along. Joey, is there any sort of, what do you do in the locker room? Do you guys come together and say, hey, no trash, don't give them any bulletin board material, or do you guys just let it out and not worry about that kind of stuff?
Well, we just keep thinking we don't want this to be our last week, and just practice hard. I know it should help us on Friday night.
All right. Well, again, Joey, thanks for taking time out to join us here on the show. We look forward to Friday night's matchup at Solon. Should be a pretty intense battle. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Definitely has the makings of a very, very exciting game. The first one, overtime. That wasn't enough. There's a state title berth on the line, so that should be a tremendous football game.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be thinking all day Thanksgiving Day. All I'm going to be thinking about is Friday night. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Should be a great game there. And now we'll just go give a quick rundown of all the local playoff games happening this week. We'll start first in Division I. We've kind of hinted at it, Hudson St. Edward. When you look at this matchup, Hudson, they've never been here in this situation before. And for St. Edward, they were here last year, lost to Menor. I think for both of those reasons, both of these teams have a lot to play for. Great quarterbacks who, as Coach Wright said, have worked out together and practiced in the summer. So I think different styles and different emotions going into this game, but should be a fantastic game.
Well, and you mentioned, the familiarity there between Mitch Guadagni and Brett Keane, and familiarity in that case, it's a friendly sort of thing. Familiarity breeds contempt when it's, Mayfield and Nordonia in our other game in Division II on Friday night at Solon Stewart Field. These teams have seen each other before. They've got a rivalry going the last couple of years. This is going to be a great game. Don't let Nordonia's offensive explosion throughout the season fool you. Mayfield played them within a point in overtime in week 1. It's going to be a tight, close, good game.
Great thing about that one is both teams are significantly better now than they were in that week 1 matchup. In Division III, St. Vincent St. Mary, maybe not a team expected to get back there, but sure enough, the Irish, huge win over Hubbard last week, an exciting ending, are back looking to defend their state title. And you talked about the Plains Athens. Quarterback Joey Burrows throws as many touchdowns as incompletions. That stat, I think, speaks for itself right there. That game will be 7:30 Friday night in New Philadelphia.
And looking over at Division IV, we've got Benedictine taking on Steubenville at Canton Central Catholic. Benedictine, with the exception of one slip up against Bedford during the season, totally understandable with that dominant Bedford team. Benedictine's been the real deal in Division IV all season long. Looking forward to not just the game on the field, but there are elements to that game off the field that everybody knows about. That the Steubenville's been in the news for 2 years now, and Jerome Baker has a connection to the young man who's playing on that team in terms of his outreach and that kind of thing. So definitely something to watch there as the storyline. Maybe
the most storylines of any game going on this weekend. And then finally in Division VI, you have Kirtland against Lucasville Valley. For Kirtland, this is where they're supposed to be. This is what they do at Kirtland. They play in state semifinal and state championships, looking to go back to the state title game for the 3rd consecutive year, win it for the 2nd consecutive year. So good matchup against Lucasville Valley, but I think Kirtland showed last week they're going to be tough to beat.
All right, so let's move now to Coach Jeff Fox from Nordonia. Coach, good to have you here on the show.
Hey, good evening, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining, Coach. First, obviously, a very good win last week against Midview. I was at the game against Perrysburg. Unbelievable high school football game. You guys really showed a lot of guts to come back in that game. How hard was it for your guys to maybe, once you got back to Monday, take that high and get focused back on football?
Well, I think that's our theme, to always play the next play. And once you come back to Monday, it's a new opponent, and you got the whole weekend of hearing your parents and Monday at school to hear the kids at school and your teachers talk about the game and talk about last week, and then we get to get all that out of our system and get back to what we do, which is focus on preparing and outworking a team Monday through Thursday to be prepared and totally confident taking the field on Friday.
All right, and obviously you have a lot of playmakers on the offense. David Murray's putting up video game numbers, and then Denzel Ward, obviously a tremendous player. But can you talk a little about Alex Alders, a guy that goes under the radar, but every time you need a big play, this kid seems to make it?
I don't know who you're talking to, how he's under the radar, man. He's one of the best players in Ohio, and I think people that have been around him know it. He was the all-time leading receiver in Nordonia football history coming into this season. He's unbelievable talent. He's played safety for 3 years, really since his freshman year. And we moved him to linebacker on defense, where he just makes plays sideline to sideline, can run with anybody. And now that he's in the interior there, he's making a lot of plays. Really last week, that was probably the most pleasing thing about that game against Midview, was how we affected Chrome with our pressure. And Alex was a big part of that with the quarterback spy. And then obviously in offense, the return game and special teams, which was the big play against Perrysburg, but in punt returns and kick returns and blocking kicks, which he's done, he makes plays. And then obviously as a receiver is probably what he is the most productive for us, just week in and week out, making catches, making plays, scoring touchdowns. He's spectacular, and you said it. He's one of many playmakers we have. We have some great kids that are fun to coach, and we're really blessed to have some talented kids that are playing really well together right now.
All right, Coach, and one of our commenters, Jake Football, wants to know, what are you doing to keep the kids from getting too confident after winning the game against Mayfield in week 1?
Well, they took it to overtime, and they had us on the ropes, and we had to come behind in that game. That's definitely, you wouldn't be overconfident after winning that way.
Mayfield's an extremely talented opponent. They're really one of the most athletic teams we played all year. They have, people talk about our fast kids. They have the fastest kid on the field in Andy Isabella, number one. And really, we just interviewed that Joey Casey kid, who's a fantastic corner. Their defense just plays fast and downhill and does a great job. I know losing Will Piccolo to injury is a big deal, but the young sophomores come in. The young Canginelli came in. It is a running back for him, but filled in at safety and done a great job right next to Michael Buda, their other safety. And they do a great job. Obviously Coach Pino and Coach Paglia and Coach Bandiera coach these kids up so well. But they play so hard and are a worthy opponent. And for us, it's a rivalry game. I mean, you talk about how to get kids motivated. Well, I was excited for week one because Nordonia and Mayfield have played year in and year out to unbelievable games. We've played an overtime game 2 out of the last 3 years. So I'm almost most pleased that I don't think we'd ever go into this game overconfident, but you could get distracted the fact that we're in the state Final Four. But what's awesome is we're in the state Final Four, and none of the talk has been about the state Final Four. It's getting the opportunity to play Mayfield one more time, which is a backyard neighborhood rivalry, and maybe get after these guys.
Yeah, I think the area is, Northeast Ohio is super excited to see this game. We knew in week 1 it was going to be a big game. We know now in week 14 that it's an even bigger game. Just talk a little bit about, you mentioned some of the other role players, the Canginellis and the LaPiccolos from Mayfield, who have played a part throughout the season. LaPiccolo's hurt. Talk a little bit about the guys who do jump off the page at you. Brian Hunter, obviously, Defensive Player of the Year in his conference, and Andy Isabella, who, does he give you fits and nightmares at night trying to figure out how to neutralize him?
You just have to know where jersey number 1 is at. Andy Isabella is going to be the fastest player on the field. He's made plays in every single game for him all year. He's the kid that they go to and try to get the football to. You mentioned it, Brian Hunter, number 44, the weak side defensive end, did a great job of, you talk about a motor. That's a kid that's going to keep playing. And the whole team plays with such great effort and runs the ball well. And then they get there, when you have Brian Hunter on one side and Phoenix Hardy, their outside linebacker, on the other side, they have great speed and play football the right way. And they're a tough defense to prepare for because of how athletic they are and how hard they play.
All right, Coach, and one final question before we let you go. Obviously, a special time. What's the atmosphere like right now at Nordonia?
It's a lot of fun. People have been so supportive, all the way from the community people and, the police force and fire department leading the bus and, all the teachers and everyone being extremely supportive all the way down to the little guys, our NTLF type kids that are around our team and we're supportive all year and excited to be around our team. We got a stack of letters and some posters from a kindergarten class and a second grade class, and it's been really cool to see our whole school community and everybody rally around this football team. Nordonia is a football town, and people care, and it's been a lot of fun. We have a great group of kids that represent this community well, both on and off the field, and we're excited to hopefully keep this ride going.
All right, Coach Fox, thank you very much for joining us, and best of luck against Mayfield.
All right, thank you, guys.
All right, now we're going to move quickly to our Vine clip of the week. We had some videos that we posted throughout the week, this week covering football. This is going to be a clip from right before halftime of the Mayfield we're going to wrap up the show here in the way that we traditionally wrap up neo-varsity-live. It's our could, should, would segment. It's one of my favorite parts of the show.
Definitely.
I'm going to kick it off. We give you the scenario here. Could Mitch Guadagni could have an interception on defense for the 3rd consecutive playoff game?
I like that. I'm going to go Benedictine could have 300-yard rushers against Steubenville.
3 100-yard rushers in one game. That's pretty good. Should Mayfield's Joe Bondra should attempt at least 2 field goals for the 3rd consecutive week?
I'm Going to go Brett Keene of St. Edward, 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. He hasn't put up a lot of numbers because of Cole Guest, but this week he breaks out.
No, they didn't have to put up a
No,
lot
he
of
didn't.
numbers
No, he
last
didn't.
week. They were up by 40 points at halftime or something ridiculous. Benedictine will reach the state title game for the 8th time in school history.
I like that. I'm going to go with the same Will that I said on the playoff preview show that I got made fun of by you and Scott. There will be 4 local teams in state championships next week.
You care to enumerate what divisions those will be in?
I believe it will be St. Edward. I believe it will be Nordonia, Benedictine, and Kirtland. I think St. Vincent St. Mary's been tremendous, but I think it ends against the Plain Athens.
All right. Well, that's it for neo-varsity-live. Great having you here. Remember, follow along hashtag neo-varsity. Keep commenting in the post, and we'll get to questions next week. For Mark Kern, I'm Joe Noga. We'll see you next time.